back of the net.
In love with him. I thought I've got a diamond here, you know. I've only got to polish it.
His presence, his appearance, it was very impressive.
One day, the nation will express its gratitude.
It wasn't only the pace, the strength, the physics.
He was our inspiration, a true champion.
Born as Ruud Gullit on September 1st, 1962, to a Surinamese father and a Dutch mother, a love of football began early.
I've been raised in the Jordan. It's, let's say, the center of Amsterdam, near the canals. It's a flower neighborhood. Everything has named as a flower. I was born in Rose Street, then moved to Balboa Square, close to it. There's a square where I always played football with my friends.
It was in the Bilbao Square that Gullit would meet friend and future teammate Frank Rijkaard.
Frank I met for the first time when I was 10. We always met each other to take a tram to go to school. And we lived in the same neighborhood, and from there on, we played every day on Bilbao Square.
We lived in a neighborhood where a lot of kids played on the streets, and one of them was Ruud Gullit. And I always enjoyed it.
Soon Ruud swapped playing in the square for his first amateur team.
I went to an amateur team in Amsterdam West. It's called DWS. And that was a good amateur team, and from there on, people noticed me.
HFC Haarlem's manager Barry Hughes was the first to pay particular interest in the youngster.
I went to see his father, and I went there when he was 15. His father said, listen, I'm not going to talk about his future now because he's 15. He said, if you come back next year, we'll talk to you about it. He's 16. I says, what's the time? He says, 8 o'clock. I said, well, I'll be back next year at 8 o'clock. And what's the date? Let's say September the 6th. So he says, I said, I'll be back on September the 6th at 8 o'clock. And I did that. I went back exactly at 8 o'clock, knocked on the door. They opened the door, Mr. Gullit and Mrs. Gullit. And it's amazing that you've come at exactly the same moment that you told us.
Gullit joined HFC Haarlem, and a long-lasting bond was formed between the pair.
And he took really care for me. He prepared me already for the things that could happen, and always told me that never regret the things that you didn't do. Always do your best, whatever you do now, because this is going to be a great journey.
But the relationship wasn't always trouble-free.
I heard he was in a discotheque, and I brought him in and I said, listen, Rudy, I'll be very honest with you. Do you want to be a great footballer? I said, you can earn millions. But you can't go to discotheques and drink and smoke like your friends. You've got to make a decision now. You're 16 and a half. Are you going to be a footballer, or are you going to be one of the lads?
Gullit took the advice on board, and his career began to flourish with Haarlem. In his 3 seasons at the club, he scored 32 goals, many of them coming from the sweeper position. His fine form hadn't gone unnoticed by the giants of the Dutch league.
He was just sold to Feyenoord. Feyenoord came in and wanted him to play there, and they paid the money that Haarlem asked for. Well, I knew he would never stay at Haarlem.
Gullit joined the Rotterdam club and Hughes waved goodbye to his young star.
Feyenoord was the first time I went to a bigger club. Had a great reputation, were not so much in shape at that moment also. Not so many people came to watch them, but it was a build-up.
It was at Feyenoord that Gullit got the chance to play alongside his childhood idol, Johan Cruyff.
I had the opportunity to meet Johan Cruyff, who I think he was 37, 38 when he arrived there, but he taught me a whole lot of what I could expect as a football player.
Gullit was an instant success at Feyenoord, but there was no silverware in the first season. The second season would prove to be more successful. The combination of Cruyff and Gullit helped Feyenoord complete a famous league and cup double. These were to be the last trophies that Cruyff would lift in his glittering career, and would also prove to be the last in Gullit's time at Feyenoord. The next season was barren, and Gullit moved to rivals PSV Eindhoven.
Feyenoord was not in the best of shapes. I wanted to move on. All of a sudden, also the things that changed me, and also that Johan Cruyff prepared me for, is that from now on you're going to take and you're going to have responsibilities. It's not only how you play yourself, but also what you can do for the team.
At PSV, he met a young Gus Hiddink.
I was a young manager in 85, 86 in PSV Eindhoven, where we signed him from Feyenoord. And there he was already at that time, a big personality. And we had the plans with him to build a team around him in Eindhoven to go for, of course, the titles in Holland, but for also to be a big club in Europe.
In his first season at Eindhoven, Gullit scored 24 league goals, helping his team to win the Dutch league. His personality was beginning to shine through.
He did a tremendous job in Eindhoven. We need that personality in a club who was not coming, let's say, from the city, but with a lot of ambition. So we signed players of his stature with personality. He did well. He did very well.
The following year, Gullit's talents were again instrumental in winning the league as Eindhoven triumphed for the second successive season. He scored 22 goals and earned himself the Dutch Footballer of the Year award for the second time. Another move was just round the corner.
I came to PSV Eindhoven to be champion, to become champions. Not just to play, but just to become champions. So I had that responsibility with me, and we did that twice in a row. So that was a great achievement.
Serie A club AC Milan offered a world record-breaking fee of what today would equate to just over €7 million for the emerging Dutch superstar.
It was crazy. I never felt it was like a weight on my shoulders, the amount of money that they paid for me. It was a new adventure. It was something I always dreamt of.
Gullit arrived at Milan, bringing in a much-needed change in attitude to the Serie A side.
It was the year when the mentality of the side changed. It was a team that was beginning to grow and will be together for many years to come.
Gullit's presence had an instant impact on a team starved of success.
The first year I was without any fear. It was all new for me. I didn't care against who I played as long as I could play. And I think it was one of the most spectacular years I had, I think, the first year with Milan.
Milan went on to win the Scudetto for the first time in 9 years, winning the title on the final day of the season against Como. Milan's newfound success was as a direct result of Gullit's fine performances.
I must say that Ruud, the year before, did a great performance. They won the championship, and he was beginning to become a great star.
Gullit was becoming a phenomenon in Italy and a worldwide icon, not just because of his football skills, but his trademark dreadlocked hair, strong physique and his outspoken views. They were turning him into a superstar.
He was one of the first players to develop his media image. His dreadlocks made him more recognisable than most other players.
Gullit's fame would allow him to fight for a cause very close to his heart, the end of apartheid and the freedom of Nelson Mandela.
I was into reggae music, and in reggae music a lot of was taught and sang about Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko also. So all these people were like icons also for me. They fought for a cause that was enormous.
Gullit, a keen musician himself, recorded an anti-apartheid song with the reggae band Revelation.
In Italy it was like a storm because all football players talking about politics. And I thought it was not politics. I think it was just a human decision.
We are extremely grateful, and hopefully one day the nation will express its gratitude to you, which is what you will deserve.
It made an impact that I couldn't, foresee. And later on, when you talk with people that have been in prison, I talked also with Nelson Mandela himself about it. I was so honored and so surprised that he knew about me when he was in prison. And Nelson Mandela, as a president, he honored me also, and gave me an award.
Back on the pitch, Gullit's club success hadn't yet been mirrored in his international career. Having been a full Dutch international since 1981, he hadn't yet been involved in a major tournament with Holland. In 1988, that was about to change as they got their chance at the European Championships to be held in West Germany. Gullit was to captain the side. In the opening match, Holland faced the USSR and made the worst possible start, losing to a single goal.
Most important experience or memory is that we lost the first game. But we didn't play that bad, but we lost the first game. It started with our coach, Michels at the time, who said, "We lost, but we have to go on, no problem, we are playing a good game, so it will come, it will come." So that gave a lot of confidence.
With Rinus Michels' words of wisdom and encouragement, Holland faced England in the next group match. Gullit set up Van Basten for the first. England equalised through Brian Robson. Van Basten then blasted home his second before completing a hat-trick. 3-1 to Holland. In the final group match, the Dutch met the Republic of Ireland. Wim Kieft scored the only goal of the game, and they were through to face the old enemy, West Germany.
When we had internationals against Holland, it was widely publicised that we hated each other.
This semi-final turned out to be a really heated affair. When Jurgen Klinsmann went down in the box, the decision was penalty. The Dutch were outraged. Lothar Matthäus stepped up and scored. Holland hit back with their own penalty. Jurgen Kohler bringing down Van Basten in the box. Ronald Koeman scored. With time running out, Marco van Basten burst through. There was only one outcome. Gullit and his team were through to the final with 75 seconds left on the clock.
The Dutch scored a goal right at the end through Marco, which was very unlucky for us. I think it was the 89th or 90th minute.
It was a fantastic moment because we beat Germany in the country of Germany, and in the semi-final that was a great success, and everybody in Holland was enthusiastic about that.
The fact that we were winning against Germany, okay, that is something what gives more to the victory, but I think it's more important to play in the final.
The Olympic Stadium in Munich would host the European Championship final of 1988. Gullit and Holland faced the team that had beaten them in their first match, the USSR. The Russians pressurised from the outset, but the Dutch struck first. Captain and leader, Gullit settling the nerves. Next would come one of the most famous moments in the history of the game.
I remember on the pitch that the cross was really too high, way too high, but Marco made something out of it that was something to remember, and nowadays people still talk about it. It was a great goal.
I just gave it a try and it went out in a special way in the goal.
The goal against Russia was a goal that, you know, he can do that another million times, he will never score that goal. I'm very proud of it. I think the national team at that moment with all youngsters who played so long together. Therefore, we were particularly proud after being so close a couple of times of winning something. Now, finally winning a trophy.
Gullit, Rijkaard and Van Basten would be reunited at club level. Rijkaard the last to join the famous Dutch trio at AC Milan.
Milan was a great team, and I think it started all with the team spirit, and the collective and the way we moved as a team.
The trio helped Milan reach the final of the European Cup, where they would face Steaua Bucharest in the famous Nou Camp in Barcelona.
It seemed almost impossible to have a stadium filled with only red and black compared to maybe just 300 or 400 Steaua fans. It was an incredible sight, not to mention the level of support we received. As soon as we saw the stadium, we knew that we couldn't lose the game.
I think the goals were the result of teamwork. And I remember the header of Marco. Great goal from Ruud when he turned. Yeah, and the last one was second half with Marco with his left in the far angle. Yeah, great to see.
The final 4-0 was a great achievement. I think that we were at that moment we were on our top as a team.
They were just as dominant the following year. They went back to the final. Although Gullit had played only 2 games that season because of injury, he started against Benfica.
Against Benfica was totally different because the Portuguese normally know their game and they play very tactically.
It took a superb link-up between Van Basten and Rijkaard to change the match.
And luckily enough, we managed to win. A great pass of Marco, and I was lucky enough to make the goal.
Gullit was a European champion again for the 2nd season running. With quality all over the pitch, this Milan team was cementing their place in football history.
There were so many strengths. We're talking about a team who won so much, and for such a long time, who dazzled the world. We're still talking about this team now, after all these years. The most important thing, though, was that we always thought about the future, and not about the past.
Next up for the Dutch was the World Cup of 1990 in Italy. This was the first that Gullit had featured in, and Holland's first in 12 years. But the tournament started badly with 2 draws. Elimination looked imminent. It took Gullit to save the day with a goal against the Republic of Ireland in their 3rd match. Another draw, but the Dutch made it through by the skin of their teeth. In the 2nd round, they were up against their arch-rivals again, West Germany. Bremer gave the Germans a 2-1 win, and the Dutch were out.
We were not able to beat them, and what I already said, physically they were simply a little better than we at that time.
This proved to be Gullit's first and last World Cup. The next international tournament was the defence of Holland's European crown in Sweden. Gullit and his team put in some fine performances in the group stages, with the Dutch qualifying convincingly and then gaining revenge on the Germans with a 3-1 win. They could taste European glory again. They met Denmark in the semi-finals. Henrik Larsson put them ahead. Bergkamp equalised. Larsson scored again, before Rijkaard grabbed the equaliser with just minutes left. So it went to penalties.
There was 10 penalties and there was only one missed. I was the only one who missed the penalty.
Kim Christoph scored and Holland's reign as European champions was over. Euro 92 proved to be the last major international tournament in Gullit's impressive career. The most successful Dutch captain in the country's history made the decision 2 years later to retire from international football. Back with the Rossoneri, Gullit was still enjoying success in a team that had a fearsome reputation all over Europe.
It was a team that he used to play football differently. For the first time, I think they were the only team in Serie A at that moment playing pressing all over the place. So it was very difficult for the opposition to really have the opportunity to play.
Gullit helped Milan dominate in Serie A. He scored vital goals in the 1992 campaign, which saw the club win the title again, his second in Serie A. The following season wasn't so smooth. Although Milan won another title, Gullit played a more peripheral role due to problems with his knees, and it seemed Milan were losing faith in him.
Milan didn't believe I could play 3 matches in a week, something like that. That I had problems with my knees. The bad thing for me was that I couldn't prove it because they didn't give me the possibility to show.
Feeling rejected, Gullit moved to Sampdoria.
When I went to Sampdoria, I think I showed everyone that was not the case, that my knees were okay. And we won also the Italian Cup.
Perhaps one of the highlights of his time at Sampdoria was his goal against his former employers, Milan.
We beat also Milan. Normally you would not cheer so much, but for me the frustration of not showing it and also not giving me the possibilities, although you talked about it, was for me a victory on itself.
Gullit played for a season at Sampdoria before briefly returning to Milan and then back to Sampdoria again. But Gullit's Italian adventure had come to an end. In 1995, Gullit moved to England and Chelsea on a free transfer.
Chelsea was for me the happy time. Every time I come to London, every time I come to Chelsea, I feel that I have that feeling. Chelsea was a choice of life. I remember the days, first time I went to King's Road, that was the best feeling I ever had. And I think it showed also in the way I played also at Chelsea.
Signed by Glenn Hoddle, he was quick to make Stamford Bridge his home. And after Hoddle's departure in 1996, Gullit took on the role of player-manager.
I think he had a good ideas. I still remember the way we used to play football with Chelsea. When he was there, it was great. Still people, they still talk about that Chelsea as the team who played the best football.
Chelsea were revolutionised by Gullit's ideas and in 1997 reached the FA Cup final. Gullit was slowly shifting towards the role of full-time management, only putting in one appearance en route to the final and ruling himself out of the game itself. Roberto Di Matteo's long-range strike with under a minute gone and Eddie Newton's tap-in ensured the FA Cup went to Chelsea and Gullit. But despite the success, Chairman Ken Bates and Gullit's relationship soon soured and he was forced to leave the club.
Difficult decision, obviously. He was having problems and so the club and him parted, but I think people still recognize that he's done a good job.
That time at Chelsea proved to be Gullit's most successful in management. With spells at Newcastle, Feyenoord and most recently with LA Galaxy in the United States, ending without honours. But his playing career will always be remembered as one of the greatest ever. Breaking boundaries and changing thinking, be that either on the pitch or in the political arena. The most successful Dutch captain of all time, a worldwide football icon whose name and spirit will surely endure the test of time.
On the way, you know, I met some marvelous people and great stars.
He was a good player. He had a brain.
He was a great player. He always was.
Physically, he was so impressive. He was a player who could play up front, in midfield, or even in defence. A complete player.
I feel very, very, very lucky.